Welcome back to Can I Be Honest? We got a lot going on this week. We're looking at Lori Loughlin and the prison of choice. Also looking at Colby Covington and the comments that he made about Tyron Woodley being a communist, amongst other fun things that he said. And Sheriff Alex Villanueva challenging LeBron James. Also have Vanessa Bryant weighing in on that. So a lot of things to talk about. Dewan, how are you feeling about all this?
I am feeling a little bit lighter than we normally feel, right? I think we're still pressing into some challenging subjects with all this stuff being tied to ultimately more death and like real people that were really harmed on the other end of it. And I always want to be mindful of that and respectful in the way that we approach the subjects. But I am feeling a little bit lighter than I typically would, maybe because we're talking about conversations today. So yeah, man, I'm excited to hear your thoughts. I'm glad that we intentionally didn't talk about this with one another ahead of time, because I'm interested to hear where you're coming from and your perspective, as well as sharing mine. And obviously, we have something to talk about, and we will continue to have something to talk about. There's no shortage of subjects, and Ralph is going to tell y'all why.
This is America.
I have a dream.
These are animals.
America preaches integration and practices segregation.
Why did you say Mexico?
A rising tide of discontent.
The South will rise again. I have a dream.
We have contrasting visions about what America is. What America is. America is.
This is America.
All right. What intrigues you the most out of all these conversations?
The thing that's most interesting to me is the sheriff. The sheriff and his thoughts on just LeBron and his challenge to LeBron and all that. I'm very interested in having that conversation. So I say we go there off the top.
Okay. So you guys can call in and join us. I'm actually curious about what other people's comments are. I know this has kind of been a hot one and there's people calling for his resignation, and it's interesting the timing of this because they're looking at what's very interesting to me too regarding Vanessa Bryant's comments. It's his department that's actually responsible for the pictures getting leaked of the crash site. And so there's an interesting tie-in there. It's sobering. And then there's some other like pending things, law enforcement issues that people are having issues for. So I'm gonna post the link right now, on my Facebook page for you guys to jump on. Would love to hear your comments. So please share. Invite people to come on. Love to, we want to engage and see, what people are thinking, how they're feeling about all this. Dewan mentioned this earlier. We usually talk about this, so I usually know kind of where he's coming from, and he knows where I'm coming from ahead of time. This time we intentionally didn't go there, so we just kind of said, let's talk about this, and so it's going to be interesting.
I see some people just jumping on. We're getting ready. If you just jumped on, we're getting ready to talk about LeBron James and the challenge that was issued to him by the sheriff, wanting him to, put some money up. And I guess, the reward money, looking for the perpetrator that shot 2 police officers last week, and the challenge that he issued and our thoughts on that. And as Steve said, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. But that's the first subject that we're going to dive into. If you just jumped on, give us a shout out in the comments so we can know who's there, so we can get you a shout out real quick.
Harry Shin, this is in your neck of the woods, so I'm curious about what's happening in Los Angeles. What you think the climate is over there regarding this kind of stuff? It's very interesting. I always find it, especially when you have high profile people being in, particularly with Vanessa weighing in on this too. I mean,
Vanessa Bryant, Kobe Bryant's wife, Vanessa Bryant. Yeah.
So he calls out LeBron, and Vanessa weighs in and with the tying in of the leaked pictures, which he's commented, he's responded to as well, and he did it. His response was a sober one. There was some weight in his response, and I felt like you just never know with that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, and what he said is like, you never want to see this stuff happen. Nobody wants to see a picture of their loved one show up, and like that was his statement. He's got some other stuff. There was a shooting that happened with someone that allegedly fleeing, and dropped a weapon as well while he's fleeing. He was ends up being killed. So his family is being called on, is calling on the sheriff to step down. What do you think about calling out LeBron and so other people too? Drop your comments.
Yeah, definitely let us know what you think about that. But just in case anybody's not fully aware of what's going on, you want to share the video? Yeah, Steve, you want to show the video real quick?
Oh yeah. Oh, I thought you were asking Ralph.
No.
Yeah, let's see the video.
Ralph, cue the video up, please.
Right now at 4:30, a challenge off court. That was LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva calling out LeBron James. He wants LeBron to double the reward to help find the gunman who shot 2 of his deputies. But the sheriff is getting some pushback for those comments.
That's right, including from Kobe Bryant's widow, Vanessa. The sheriff spoke with NBC4 Angie Crouch here today. So, Angie, what is the sheriff saying?
Yeah, I mean, he is responding to this today. He's basically just continuing to challenge LeBron James. Of course, LeBron James, one of the country's most vocal athletes, calling for police reform amidst nationwide protests over police killings of African Americans. So now LA Sheriff is basically calling him out, basically saying if you care about law enforcement and race relations, then you should donate to help find the person who shot those 2 sheriff's deputies.
We have to condemn violence universally, in all forms.
LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva explaining over Zoom today why he went on a radio show last night and challenged Laker LeBron James to double the more than $200,000 reward being offered to find whoever shot and critically injured 2 deputies Saturday night.
I want to make a challenge. This challenge is to LeBron James. I want you to match that and double that reward, because I know you care about law enforcement. You expressed a very interesting statement about your perspective on race relations and on officer-involved shootings.
The sheriff didn't say which of LeBron James' statements he was referring to, but on August 24th, after the Wisconsin police shooting of Jacob Blake, LeBron James said black people are terrified of police in America.
Right now, for black people, right now, we are hunting. We think it's you hunting us. Unfortunately. There's just too many killings going on.
Sheriff Villanueva says he found some of LeBron James' comments concerning.
The words have consequences. So if we're constantly demonizing law enforcement, that is not going to help the situation at all.
Kobe Bryant's widow, Vanessa Bryant, who's suing the sheriff's department over leaked photos of her husband's helicopter crash, reposted on social media some critical comments about the sheriff's challenge for LeBron James, including one that says he shouldn't be challenging LeBron James to match a reward or to step up to the plate. He couldn't even step up to the plate and hold his deputies accountable for photographing dead children. The sheriff responded by saying the leaking of the photos is being investigated and legislation has been introduced that would fine and jail first responders who share accident photos.
My heart goes out to her family and what she's gone through. No one ever wants to go through that.
Now, the sheriff says he doesn't know whether the shooting of the deputies was linked to recent racial tensions or perhaps some other motive. We did try to reach out to the Lakers to get response from LeBron James today, but so far, we've not heard back. Reporting live, Angie Crouch, NBC4 News.
Yeah, so that's if you weren't aware of kind of what we were talking about, that's it, right? The sheriff who's running the show where the officers were shot last week issued that challenge out to LeBron, saying that he wanted him to step up and donate money, match it, and double it. So I'll share a couple thoughts that I have. So there's a couple things, right? Like one, I just want to say how glad I am that LeBron has not responded, right? I believe that LeBron has millions and millions of followers on Twitter and Instagram and the social media platforms that he's on. Probably one of the most popular people probably in the country when it comes to social media. Definitely in the sports world, right? Like there's not a name that's bigger than LeBron's in the sports world. So the fact that he understands enough to know that like if he responds to the challenge at all, like that's going to bring some more attention to this sheriff, right? And he understands the value in just him commenting on it. So that's why, like, you know, I appreciate him not saying one word. The thought of somebody saying that like they think like wanting to challenge somebody else to do something with something that's theirs that you have no relationship with, right? Like I get it if it's somebody that you know. I see people do that all the time. Like, hey, you know, I want to challenge my friend to match what I'm doing here for this, you know, cause or whatever the case may be, right? But like to just target him in that way and say, I want to, like, you know, make a suggestion or tell him what he should do if he cares about this country, if he cares about law enforcement, right? Like it's conditional. Like if you do what I challenged you to do, then that's you caring about it, right? As if he really cares about LeBron, or as if he really cares about the position that LeBron has taken, right? There's still this thing that like all these subject matters that we talk about, like there's a display of power and posturing in all these different scenarios. Everything that we talk about every week, I'm just fascinated by the power display that's there. And I mean, we know that a lot of this stuff is, to me, like the origins of where we find ourselves, even from the violence and everything else, from the Karens calling the police, the like being able to like impose your will, your thoughts and ideas onto Black people as to what they should do with their bodies, right? With their resources and their thoughts, right? And their allegiances, right? It's like there's always someone trying to force someone to do what they think that person should be doing, right? And I just appreciate LeBron more as a man for some of the work that he's done in Cleveland with the school that he started in Akron, and the results that they're having there, the performance that the students are having, access to like really high level education. I don't think that LeBron is somebody that has a shortage of places where he invests his money to bring about the change on issues and subject matters that he's really passionate about. And I don't think that he has a shortage of things that he's passionate about. And if he wanted to speak on that or do something in that regard, I'm sure he would have without being prompted by anyone. So like that, those are some of the thoughts that I have, but really like the whole like thing of people wanting to be able to tell people what to do with what's theirs. It's almost akin to that whole, like, you know, if you like you're
using the word tell people what to do. What's the difference between that and challenge? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So okay, let's just use challenge, right? Like suggest, right? It's like I make nowhere near the money that LeBron James makes, right? But if you don't know me and you approach me or publicly say you're going to challenge or you're going to tell me to do, you're gonna get the same energy, right? Like this is my money, you know what I'm saying? That I've earned. So if you suggest publicly or if you challenge me to match and double something, like that versus you telling me, you're gonna get the same response from me. You know what I mean? Like I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? So let's use challenge. He's challenging, right? So I think that there is something that is like deeply rooted in our society where people feel, especially white people, feel that they are like commissioned to be able to make these type of recommendations,
is he white?
Challenges, and whatnot.
His last name's Villanueva. Are you assuming he's white?
I'm assuming he's white, so maybe he's not. Maybe he's not. And thank you for the correction. And I would say that, you know, we can like deep dive or shallowly dive into like black people being policed because George Zimmerman wasn't white. You know what I mean? But if you find a way or an opportunity to assimilate, right, the being deputized still applies. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you find a way to be embraced, be accepted, and your target is black, you still can get deputized, and you can still get the same type of treatment that anybody else would get when it comes to like being on the side of good old USA customs, right? So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I just think that I think it's important just because it's complex. You know what I'm saying? It's easy to like put like to say white, you know, to label white people. Even you think about Philando Castile, like a lot of people don't know like what color was his shooter. You know what I'm saying? What color was the cop? He's Latino also. You know, a lot of people just assume he's white just because, you know, that's just where we are.
The narrative that's in our mind. Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah. So as far as the, I don't know, like, I actually like the challenge. I like it for a lot of reasons. One, because I think what the challenge can do. Yeah, Elizabeth said it's dangerous to start lumping people in as black or white. Somebody else said it was a clown move. Who said it was a clown move? Because I thought I saw that earlier.
Bruce said it was a clown move by that sheriff.
Bruce said it was a clown move. I'm curious what other people think. What do you think? So the sheriff is asking LeBron to double the reward money, to give $200,000 to double the reward money for the guy who shot, to find the guy who shot his officers. And so we're curious what you guys think in the comments, or you can jump on the show and share your thoughts as well. This is why I like it. I like it because we live in a country where you're only allowed to care about one thing. And so like if an event happens, you are naturally going to like hate it with these same people that hate it for these same reasons, and you're going to love it with these same people that love it for these same reasons. Like you're either going to be on the right or on the left. In any given scenario that pops off in this country, you always are going to hear like this, like it's like the group think is amazing. Like we do not know how to think on our own. And therefore, like I have to be very careful about what I say I care about. Like it cannot cross certain boundaries and certain lines. And you see, so anything that comes up, if it's a school shooting, conversations are the same every time. Every time. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a police shooting, conversations are the same. The exception was George Floyd. George Floyd started something different with this, and where I was starting to hear like a little bit of blending in the conversations. But by and large, we are not a country that deals well with nuance. We like our categories clean and separate and all that kind of stuff. And so I think this, like I think often when you talk about, you have some people that say, well, blue lives matter, and you know that somehow, to me, that somehow is in opposition with Black Lives Matter. So I get the nuance, and I get, you know, the fact that people are looking at that as taking an offense. Like I care about police officers' lives. I care about black people's lives and white people's, and Latinos and Asian Americans, everybody. And I think his call out, honestly, I think his call out is an opportunity for LeBron. Like with $200,000, I mean, that's probably like $20 for me, $200 for me, is an opportunity to then like flip the conversation back. It's like, okay, here's $200,000. Now that I did what you asked me to do, here's what I'm asking you to do. You know what I'm saying? And like have a completely different conversation. Like, yeah, I will help here. You're calling me up. Like, yes, I do care about officers' lives. Yes, I also feel hunted when I step outside the door. You know what I'm saying? And I've heard this, like, he's not the only black person. You hear black people in so many different areas of this country, like having very different conversations. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We're not going up north this year. We're not. You know what I'm saying? He's like, I don't feel I just can't do it this year. It's different. There's a different feel. I've had several black people. There's just a different. The atmosphere is different. We have a fellow, a friend of ours, and they have a son that's like, there's some really troubling things happen in at his college campus, and to where like some things that like if they happened when I was a student, I would have kind of felt like these were just like ignorant kids being dumb. Now when I hear it, I think, oh, this is serious. You know what I'm saying? And so like recognizing that, to me, like this is an opportunity for LeBron to kind of leverage that conversation off something for him. And I don't know his finances. I'm sure he's got like $200,000. Like from my perspective of what he makes isn't a lot of money. I'm sure, I know he is very generous. I know he's very kind. But to me, I look at it as an opportunity to really leverage some like, okay, I've demonstrated that I care about you. Now it's your turn to demonstrate to me back the other way. And I think the only opportunity here is a win. Like for him to be able to then have some leverage to then have further conversation, dialogue, relationship, all that kind of stuff. I think that stuff is necessary. So now he's crossed over. Now the sheriff has to cross over. That's how I look at it.
So here's what I'm hearing, right? What I'm hearing is, in order for him to be embraced or show good faith, he needs to kick in 200 grand, right? Or he should, and that would be a way to prove that he like is worth having a conversation and a dialogue on a bigger level. So that's kind of like what I'm hearing. So this like, is that what you're saying?
He could respond a different way. You know what I'm saying? It could be in response. I'm not going to do that. Here's what I am going to do because I do care. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then we have a different way. He doesn't have to give the $200,000. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it is what it is. But like what he could do is say, look, like he could have a conversation with the community. Like, look, we can't stand for this. If we want this, we can't allow this to happen. And I know you know where he is. So like in order for us, so anyway, and like to your point, like we shouldn't have to have like, unfortunately, that's where we are. I think largely as a country is like, we kind of have to like, I won't give an ounce until you give an ounce. And then I still don't want to give an ounce. Like we should just all want to do what's right, but that's not how we are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, we're going to dive into another section or another subject matter shortly, but I do want to share, like, what did Bruce say? He said, Sheriff should have challenged his brothers in blue across the country to not shoot and kill unarmed black men and women. Right?
Agreed.
It's like if you're going to issue a challenge, you know what I mean? It's like I would say I agree with you, Bruce. Like I would have loved to have heard him issue that type of challenge, right? Because like you demonstrate that you have some balance before you call me to have like something that I'm not sure you're displaying, right? He said that, LeBron had some real strong views on race relations that, he thought were either interesting. I'm not sure the term that he used, right? But it made it sound like he had some questions about it, right? And I think that, if you're going to be, because you're still talking about somebody that's used to and accustomed to like a power dynamic, right? And you're talking about like, somebody that heads a police department in a place real close to like where LeBron lives, plays bat and works, right? So it's like there's a lot of things that are going on in there in the way like, I view that from a worldview or a lived experience and the way some of the things that I've heard LeBron James say. So like, it's odd that that's where like somebody would see fit to start. If somebody's saying like, look, like we feel hunted, right? And you're gonna say like issue a $200,000 reward that is like filtered through the space where you feel like the hunters are that are hunting you. Right?
Also, though, it's the media that chose that clip. You know what I'm saying? Because he's like, I haven't followed everything he said, and I don't know what he said. So they chose, like, you have to, like, that's the other thing. Like, how the media ties things together. Like, they're leading us in a particular path for a particular narrative as well. So,
but like, yeah, point really received, right? But at the end of the day, like LeBron said that, you know what I mean? And I know that
100%.
like he has a history going back to Trayvon Martin and being, you know, in Florida, working in Florida when all of that stuff happened, right? So like this is something that he's obviously like passionate about. And I would say like I can't speak for LeBron. Like I'm only trying to give my views in the way I would receive it, way I would hear it, and my thoughts on it, right? But I think that, you know, like there's an assumption that like because Black people don't want to see police stop killing Black people, there's an assumption that Black people hate the police. You know what I mean? And it's like I would say like you can find people of all like nationalities that hate the police and would say they hate the police. We're talking about like on a whole, like we don't like Black people, we don't hate the police. We just want to see them do what they're supposed to do, right? And we want to see some balance in the way that communities are policed, right? And we want to see somebody held accountable when they step outside of bounds. And we want people to stop being able to, police officers to stop being able to say that they feared for their life under in a circumstance where somebody was unarmed and they ended up killing somebody or shooting somebody and maiming them. You know what I mean? Like we want to see folks like held at the same standard that everybody else is. That's it. That don't mean you hate the police or hate law enforcement. You know what I mean? So that's, you know, and the language that we use and the way things that like you demonize whole groups and try to because what that sets you up to be able to do is be dismissive of what they say, as if what they say should carry no weight because you just made it sound like they feel a certain way. And I feel like that's kind of the box that he tried to put LeBron in, trying to put him in a box to say, if you don't do this, we're not going to respect your voice. You don't have a voice here, right? Because if you have some balance and you care about police officers, then you should come to the aid of these two officers that were like shot and that's the other thing that I don't appreciate about it, because it feels like gamesmanship. You got two of the officers that served up under him that were shot. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's some gamesmanship there's some gamesmanship about that and the way he issued that challenge, as opposed to trying to figure out how to get in touch with LeBron and say, hey, you know, is there a way that we can work together on this? You know what I mean? Is there a way that we can work together on this? You have a very large platform. Things are out of hand. I don't like where they are. You don't like where they are. Can we have a conversation? You know what I mean? That's totally different from trying to manipulate the situation, in my opinion, right? And that's what I don't appreciate, because he got two officers that are laid up somewhere, like, and fighting for their lives last time we checked on them. You know what I'm saying? So that's it. I'm gonna jump off my soapbox.
Fair enough. I do think people demonize the police too. I mean, you got the all cops are bad thing. You got people that
definitely,
you know, people that go that route too. So and then don't want to like hear anything.
Definitely. I agree, and I think that that's unhealthy. And I do not stand with people that hate all police officers. You know what I mean? And I do not stand with people that like just want to like kill like innocent police officers. I don't stand with people that they want to do that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
100%. So let's hit shoot, everything ties back to LeBron this week, actually. So it really doesn't matter which direction we go. You want to hit Lori Loughlin or Colby?
No, let's go to the other one. It's because my Lori Loughlin's already gonna take me down. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's hit this. Colby Covington had a fight with Tyron Wheatley, and so this is UFC, and he won, and he had some choice words to say about Tyron Wheatley, who's black, former champion, and so let's roll that clip.
Ralph, cue the clip, Ralph. So yeah, but with the clip that you're going to see is like Steve said, there was a fight that took place, and guy has some real strong views on like Black Lives Matter, LeBron James, and other athletes that stand up for Black rights. But without further ado,
that you're dedicating the fight to the police department, who's been vilified, and to military heroes. Now that you've won the fight, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I just want to dedicate this victory to them. All law enforcement, all military out there, men and women. You guys are the real celebrities. You guys are the real heroes of America, not these woke athletes, not these spineless cowards like LeBron James. It's the law enforcement who protect our communities and keep us safe. All these athletes, they use law enforcement for private security to make sure that they're safe. And now they want to vilify them. They want to talk about the 1% of the 1% of the bad times that they do. What about all the other good things? What about 9/11 when they rushed in and put their lives on life to save all those people? What about all the good things they do every single day? So, I fight every single day, not only for the Trumps, but for the troops and for law enforcement.
Well, I guess with your other posts, you called Tyron Woodley a domestic terrorist sympathizer. How do you draw that parallel to, fighting for equal rights and social justice? How are those the same?
Because he's standing up for lifelong criminals. The Black Lives Matter is a complete sham. It's a joke. They're taking these people that are complete terrorists. They're taking these people that are criminals. These aren't people that are hardworking Americans, blue collar Americans. These are bad people. They're criminals. And they shouldn't be attacking police. If you're breaking the law and you're threatening the cops with weapons, you deserve to get what you get. So, that the law enforcement, protects us all. If we don't have law enforcement, it'd be the wild, wild west. So, people need to go give a pat on the back to law enforcement every single day and thank them for keeping us all safe. Otherwise, all these criminals will be running the streets wild and none of us will be safe.
So you're saying that Tyron Woodley supports criminal behavior and encourages it?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a communist. He's a Marxist. He stands for criminals. He hates America, and that's why he got broke tonight.
Understood. What makes him a communist? I don't understand how you arrived at that conclusion that he's a communist.
Because everything that he stands for, man, he stands for everything that is against America. He doesn't like America. He doesn't stand up for the rights of America. He doesn't stand up for law enforcement officers. He wants to defund the police. These are the same police that give him private security and him and his family, daily. So, now you want to vilify them and put targets on their back like LeBron James. These guys are heroes, man. These guys are real celebrities. So, we need to give a shout to law enforcement and stop trying to vilify them.
I love this. I love this and hate it for the same reason. And it's that I think that this is just kind of where, like, I think this is the average American conversation. Like the classic. So I think the epitome of it is this. Why would you say he's a communist? Well, because he's anti-American. Like what? So why didn't you say he's anti-American? You know what I'm saying? Like what? Like why didn't you go into like what makes him anti-American? You called him a communist. You called him like so supporting a certain type of government, of politics, of rule regime, of economy, all that kind of stuff. Like he didn't go into any of that.
So why would he do that? So in your opinion, why would he do that? Why would he call him a communist and use some of the language that he used?
Well, one, I think he's probably drawn on the Marxism thing, which so there's a close line into the Black Lives Matter thing, but he bleeds everything together. And this is like we cherry pick. So like, but your why is like I think what you're really asking is because like there are certain buzzwords that we like to just categorize and label people as, and like to vilify them to more than other ways that we might currently vilify them. So the more we can categorize people, the more we can label people a certain way, then like we don't have to have facts. Like we just have to have enough to kind of put this label on them and then set them in a certain category and completely throw away anything they have to add to any conversation. So, and there's this bleeding together of a whole bunch of things. So you had the Black Lives Matter leadership that talks about, they're Marxist, they're this, that, and the other. And so, like, I don't have an issue. Like, if you want to critique that, or critique the organization, or critique that, like, to not be able to draw a distinction between people talking about people's actual lives in part, it's for the show. He knows these comments and strong. I missed that. Words are going to build the hype. Yeah, 100%. I think that's part of it too. But like, we're just so unintelligent in how we have conversations. That's what drives me crazy. People use these words. It's funny when you see those like reporters that'll go around and they'll be standing in line for a rally, and this could be on either side of the fence, like left, right, whatever, and they'll start asking people questions, and they'll throw out these words, and then they'll follow up with some really basic stuff, and the people, like, their explanations make no sense. And that's what I think has happened here. Like, he didn't go into any of the stuff that he said. He just wanted to vilify him and whatnot. And the same thing is true with 100%. There are people who, but he's still only telling part of the story. There's people who, they're assaulting officers and they get killed trying to assault an officer. And so, but he's lumping them all in together with the Breonna Taylor, the Tamir Rice, the Philando Castile, all of them.
Is the person he peaked is LeBron James, or like Woodley, like advocating for them? You know what I mean? Like, is that who they are talking about? Have you ever seen them like speak out in protest for somebody that has done that? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. So if you and Katrina are right, and he's doing it for part of the show, and that it's part of the hype, or he's lumping everything together, making a stronger point. Like, if that's the case, then I would find relief in that, right? Like, what we typically do,
I would say that's a piece of it.
Yeah.
Not the, you know what I'm saying? I think there's layers of it.
Yeah, yeah. So historically, what you do is you weaponize words and terms, and you use them to either demonize people or put them in a box that make them, like, basically put a target on their back, right? So, like, if you can call somebody a domestic terrorist and get people to buy into that narrative and believe that, then it's okay for almost any of us to kill them, right? Because there's a war on terrorism, right? Like, we hunt and kill terrorists, right? Like, even if we don't have any proof that they are terrorists, right? Like, we have a precedence for doing that in this country. And if I can put a group, right? Like, we've seen this happen before with the Panthers, right? Like, if you can demonize a group that is basically a group that's fighting to protect rights for people, right? And if you can demonize them and make them a terrorist group or organization and get people to believe that, and get people like him who has a platform to go on and say that, right? Then it's going to be a lot easier, a lot more like easier for us to handle seeing them taken out, hurt, or jailed and whatnot. So, like, there's something really, really, like, dangerous. And I would say this: I'm not even sure if he's aware that that's what he's doing. I think that he's getting talking points from wherever he gets his information from. But the people that give him those talking points know that we have a history of doing that. You know what I mean? When you talk about, like COINTELPRO, when you talk about, like, the taking out the black messiah, and this history that we have, that's a fresh history. It's not even that old. And we see it happening now. It's happening right in front of our face, and people are buying into it, and that we don't even realize what we're watching. But we're watching, like, things get set up for there to be a really, really bloody response to people that are fighting just for justice, right? Like, I was telling you about, like, the the comedian that said like, look, like matters, right? Like we're getting pushed back from just like wanting to say something like people matter. You know what I mean? And it's the fact that we're having this amount of conversations about it, and he's still working LeBron James back into it, right? Like this stuff is amazing to me. You know what I mean? So those are some of the thoughts that I have on him and his position. And I just think that it's really, really dangerous. And you know, I'm a person that believes in free speech, but you know that type of talk is really, really dangerous, and I'm hearing more and more of it. And I'm hearing more and more of it from like people that are somewhat rational. You know what I mean? Somewhat rational people, but that's that's what makes it more alarming to me.
Yeah, I think it's become the norm. I think this is the norm. The interesting thing about the Black Panthers is that you never get that wiped clean. You know what I'm saying? There isn't any revisionary history, and so they're just viewed like if you would think like outside the Black community, they're just viewed as basically a Black Power organization that walked around with guns and threatened people. You know, and without, I don't think you just don't get the full story of like, hey, so like, let's go back to a day in the life of what it meant to be. You look at what's happening now, like the stuff that was going on back then, pre cell phones, pre body cams, pre all this, like the scale and everything else is no comparison. And so when you have people showing up legally, carrying firearms, knowing their rights, and defending other people, and making sure people get certain places safe, etc. You know, yeah, the desire is to paint them a certain way so that we can continue life as usual. Yeah, in this case, I do think it's dangerous. I don't think we're at a place where the stuff that we're saying is all leading in one direction, and everybody is just continuing to get more and more riled up. Everybody's continuing to just get more and more volatile, and that's from leaders on down. You know, that's from the very top, and those peers, right and left, like the things that are said, and got like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. If you think about, you know, there were times, for instance, like certain things. I remember when the Challenger blew up, because there were times in class, like when I was a kid, there were just various times where we would sit, like the whole class would sit, we're going to watch this. And it would be something like that, or it would be the President of the United States, or something government related. Like major U.S. kind of history making things we would watch as a class. Now, it's like you can't have 5 and 6, even 11, 12-year-olds watching this stuff because it's like inappropriate. It's so inappropriate. It's so hostile, so volatile. It's nuts. It is absolutely bonkers. But I look, at the end of the day, it's up there, but it's down here too. You know what I'm saying? It's my coworkers and friends and the dude at the grocery store. You know what I'm saying? And the lady at the gas station. It's just all of us. Like there's this growing sense of volatility that's only leading in one direction. So yeah, the words like terrorist, the words that he's using, I don't know, man. His whole thing was funny to me. Calling LeBron spineless. I found him amusing. I found his inability to have like coherent, cohesive responses to direct questions that he was making, like using very big language. I found that comedic. But nobody on his side of the equation is going to see any problems with that. And the very few that do will just like let it pass. And if he's on the flip side, nobody is going to have problems with that. They don't care. When it comes up, they're going to tell you all the reasons why, like what he said was okay. And that's a problem. So we can't we can't look in the mirror. We can't be critical of our own. You know, it's horrible. We're at a tough place. So.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I think Bruce said, I find the MMA fighters' comments offensive and inflammatory. It is easy to demonize the opposition when you don't fully understand or desire to understand their viewpoint. And Elizabeth, Elizabeth said, I think it's also important to remember that any person that comes into these crucial conversations is approaching it with emotion, lots of it. And sometimes that emotion takes center stage. It is easy to assign intent to someone and fail to give a little grace with people's diction. No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, there is plenty of emotion going around when we're having these conversations. Yeah, and you know, you put these folks walk around with microphones and cameras in their faces all the time, and inevitably, people are going to say some things that you know, are going to get us to have these type of conversations afterwards, right? And part of it is, you know, they represent like large numbers of people, right? There's lots of people that think this way, that feel this way, and they're representing someone's voice. And the thing is, when you hear somebody there that represents your voice, it makes you feel good. Right,
oh,
like
100%.
You know what I mean. When I see LeBron James, when I see like LeBron James, who he referred to as spineless, being willing to put his reputation on the line, know that he's going to get that type of pushback, know that people are going to tell him to shut up and dribble. Right, you know that he knows that those things are going to happen. He knows that he runs the risk of losing endorsements. You know what I mean? And all kinds of things, right? Like when I see him leading the way,
that doesn't move me. I'm just saying, when you make that much money, like I don't care how many endorsements you lose, like I'm not moved. But I hear you.
Yeah. I mean, that's cool, right? But it's like, you know, they're not your endorsements. So like, you know, it's like, I mean, it's always easy to say, like, you know, when somebody else is like has a lot of something, you know what I mean? But like, if you had a kid that went to that school that he was funding, or the next one that he was funding, or the next one that he was potentially funding, then maybe it would move you. You know what I mean? Because that money that like we have missing in the Black community, when you talk about like years and years of free labor, when you can see somebody accumulate a lot of it and do some good with it, that means a lot to the Black community. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about the James family. I'm talking about the Black community as a whole. You know what I mean? So like, we don't want to see him lose money, because that money means something to us as a whole. You know what I mean? And not just him, he sets the bar for other athletes. You know what I mean? Like other athletes, like there's a pressure there for them to mimic what he's doing. So it's a lot bigger. You know, I don't want to see him lose endorsements. You know what I mean?
100%.
That you know, so yeah. So you know, are we going to go to this other place and talk about the other one? I'm interested in what Katrina said last. Can we pop that up?
They're also trying to increase viewership for the fight and given current political climate, it increased the drama tension of the match. Skeptical how much of that was Covington's true opinion versus him intentionally saying extreme and hostile comments to get more attention. Regardless, the fight was sad to watch. Covington absolutely dominated Woodley in the ring. He actually got a call from Trump too. He went to Trump's rally, and that's interesting too, Katrina, because all this stuff, it's trying to figure, like, it's all a game. Like a lot of it's a game. Like I don't know how much he really believes this too. Like when he's talking to Trump on live TV, and so that's on video too. And he's talking about after he shook his hand, like he didn't care if it was King Kong in the ring, he would have crushed him because he was just so geeked about shaking Trump's hand. And Trump didn't really go into he actually gave credit to Woodley, which I appreciate. Trump's comments, like I had no issue with anything that Trump said, but it does get into this whole, to your point, gets into this whole thing of like, what is really happening? And it's all this, like, he's not a huge name in MMA. So like, all of this kind of recognizing the polarization, and there's no like all news is good. You know, they say there's no thing is bad news.
Yeah.
It's like, so the people that hate you, like that just elevates your status. The people that love you elevate your status. So what he's doing, it is actually very strategic. So does he actually care? I don't know. There's some things that he said about military, which I felt like were probably like, that was the part I think that made the most sense to me in all of what he said. And I hear a lot of people echo their respect for the military, respect for the police, which I also share. You know, I just think it's, yeah, there's a lot of cherry picking, and Bruce kind of talked about that too, like not understanding viewpoints. We cherry pick what we want to throw back and to create arguments, and they're half-baked arguments because we're not taking the whole context. And that's just where we live right now.
Yeah, yeah. To your point and Katrina's point, now we're talking about him and the match. And if you're watching, I hope that you realize we're really talking about me and you. You know what I mean? Ultimately, right? Because like we wrestle with these thoughts. They are the ones that get the camera and the microphone and get to say it. So like, you know, if you are viewing, if you're getting a chance to watch this, like, where am I like getting it wrong? Where am I like painting with very broad strokes? Where am I like demonizing folks and using inflammatory language and leading people in a way that would dehumanize people, right? And put them in that box of no return. You know what I mean? Like, where do I do that? You know what I mean? When I have a microphone. So that's, you know, that's the reason I have this conversation, you know, and get it, like people go back and Google them and all that. But I hope that, you know, we'll again, like, look in the mirror and look for spaces where we can improve, because Steve said it earlier, we're heading, we're in a really, really rough spot, and where it feels like we're heading is even worse. It's scary.
100%.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, we didn't have anybody jump on with us today. There's nobody brave enough to jump on. Our energy a little bit too much today, or a little too little today. There was one more kind of interesting thing that kind of came up and what we wanted to talk about. Was there a video for it, or just kind of a clip? Ralph, did you want to share that? Do you want to set it up first?
We got a. He's just got a picture of there was a comment again. LeBron is the man of the hour. So I just shared on my Facebook page the link if anybody does want to jump on with us and comment. Yeah, but Lori Loughlin. So this is she, Aunt Becky on Full House. So she got caught up in that scandal with the college money, like last year, 2 years ago, whatever. Anyway, her sentencing has finally come through. She's got 2 years of hard time prison, or 2 months. Sorry, 2 months.
I'm about to say
60 days, and white collar crime.
Prison of her choice.
Prison of her choice. White collar crime is where it's at. That's all I gotta say. Like, the white collar crime is where it's at. But yeah, let's look at that comment. So, Dewan, you want to read
Man,
these?
I don't have my glasses on.
All right, let me get real close and read this. Of her what? So this is LeBron James. Like, he's referring to, like, of her what, as in like of her choice. So this is the prison of her choice. I'm laughing because sometimes you have to just stop from crying. Don't make no damn sense to me. We just want the same treatment if committed the same crime. That's all. Is that asking for too much? Let me guess. It is, huh? Yeah, I know. We'll just keep pushing forward and not expecting the handouts. Strong, black, and powerful. 50 Cent replied, and Trouble Man is T.I., right? Anyway, sounds about white. Anyway, 50 Cent. Yeah, that sounds about white. I've never heard of that before. You go into jail, but pick anyone you want to go to. LOL. That is so effed up. 2 Chainz, thumbs down. And then Viola Davis. What? Is it punishment if you get to choose? Is she going to choose her meal program too? I would guess that she definitely is. If she's choosing the prison, she's definitely choosing the meal
She's
program.
definitely choosing what she wants to eat, no doubt. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Never mind. I was just gonna take a shot, but never mind. Go ahead. Go ahead. What are your thoughts?
All right. Normally, like I would encourage you to finish your thought, but I'll let you sit with that one. You know, at some point, there's some points in life where I like try to be better at something. Don't you hate it when you're trying to be better and somebody's like trying to like encourage you not to be better? They're like, come on, man, just say it. Like,
Yes, yes,
like, you know you want to
yes.
say it. So I'm gonna encourage you to be better.
Thank you.
Yeah. Again, I'm not joking. Like white collar crime is just where it's at. So when you look at it, and this all goes back to the prison system. When you look at like the crime that people do at that level, like the money that people take and get away with, like the things that they extortion, like anything that's like higher level white collar crime, it's just like the punishments just they're pale. They pale in comparison with some of the stuff that you do, some other petty crime stuff, and like what's considered blue collar crime. So the fact that you go through all of this, like you stole like thousands upon thousands of dollars, and you get 2 months, dude.
Bruce asked to refresh his memory of her crime.
Shoot, man, it's been a long. I think we all need a refresher on this one.
So what isn't she the one that like they were caught up in that scandal of fixing grades and acceptance into schools for a bunch of very well off students?
Yeah.
Parents, there was a whole ring where they were doing whatever it took to get whatever it takes to get their kids into colleges that they otherwise wouldn't have gotten into, but because they had the money and the means to, grease the right palms, they were able to get their kids like in the schools.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she's the one that got the kids into college, is what Elizabeth said. Yeah, and yeah, it was something. I don't know all the details because I honestly didn't care for Ivy Leagues. But yeah, so she's. It goes back to the fact that we just need to, I think in some ways, we've gone along in this country, and whatever you live. I was talking to a young lady yesterday, a Palestinian lady actually, in the U.S., and I was asking her about what she thinks about the current climate. And she's like, I don't really care because it doesn't affect me personally. And I think a lot of people are there, that they don't they're good. Like within this framework, I can get my kids where they need to go. I can get where I need to go. I'm good. And so for a lot of us, like there doesn't seem to be like this big need to like, hey, wait, let's tear it all apart. And I don't mean like tear it down. I mean, like, let's analyze everything. Let's go back to the drawing board and really look at what's happening with our legal system and look at like, hey, for instance, why are cocaine and crack treated so different? You know what I'm saying? Why did she get 2 months for this? Let's look at rape victims versus other victims, or rape, not victims, sorry, perpetrators versus other perpetrators, and look like why are those different? You know what I'm saying? I'm shocked at some of how short these sexual predators get. Like for stuff at times, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we should go back to the drawing board on all of it. But when you look at race, when you look at cause, I mean, this is part of what we're talking about now in the as it relates to all of these other conversations we're having that really were triggered by Ahmaud Arbery and then George Floyd and these things. So these set of conversations, I think, that's why I think her thing fits in well, because I think as Americans, we just need to be looking at everything. And I think all of us need to be like, look, it's okay. It's okay to look at this stuff. You know, I think people get scared when they hear things like defund the police, because there are honestly people who are like, let's just get rid of them. I think, you know, shoot, I've been here. There's been a lot of gunshots this summer in my neighborhood. I like the police. I was walking my daughter, you know, to our to my in-laws' house the other day. There's 2 cops on the court shooting with a kid there, and I love that. I love that. You know, so it's like there's got to be a balance. We have to approach this in a different way. We have to approach it looking at myself, like you said. It's like, look, I gotta find the flaws in myself, and I gotta find the ways that, like, I'm messed up and I'm falling short, and come to you with a certain amount of respect and humility, because I know I don't have all the answers. I know you don't have them either, but hopefully, like, between my thoughts on the right, your thoughts on the left, my thoughts in the middle, wherever you're coming from, like, we can find something that, like, will be better together.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. I guess where I will end, because it's about that time, is you know, just reminding myself, right? Like we talked about as we prayed, as we always do before we jump on with you guys, that, you know, the people that we discuss, and the people that I disagree with, the people that ends up, like, you know, on the show as kind of like subjects, right? They're God's creation. You know what I mean? And I don't want to, like, find myself dishonoring him in the way that I treat his creation. No more than I want somebody to, like, you know, bring any harm my way, or to somebody that you know, is really close to me. So I want to continue to remind myself of that, and look for ways to kind of find common ground, find solutions where it's possible. You know what I mean? You know, especially when somebody's not necessarily coming from a place of hate. Somebody's coming from a place of hatred. I don't know how to reconcile that, and I don't see myself investing time, energy, or extending, you know, a whole lot of, you know, challenge to people to forgive without those people looking for repentance. Like, I call out for repentance before the forgiveness piece on that type of stuff. But I do want to, you know, remind us that, you know, these people that people are talking about when they are expressing their love for America, right? The people that they're often talking about are Americans, right? So, like, how much do you really love America if you are finding yourself often, like, hating other Americans? You know what I mean? So, like, are you cool with, like, loving space, tradition, land over people? And if so, that sounds pretty consistent with, you know, America, because that's kind of how America came to be. You know what I mean? A love for place, location, ownership, and willing to do whatever it took to other people to make this land that many of us call great. But anyway, that's all the time we got for today. We are glad that y'all joined us. Thank y'all for being a part of the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for challenging me a couple times, Steve, and then thank you for, like, encouraging me to do what's right. When I felt
think Simone said
like
not
that was
tonight.
wrong. Yeah, she did. I appreciate that. Thank y'all for being consistent with that. And you know, we look forward to
I
talking.
thought she was saying don't hold back tonight. That was my interpretation.
I thought she was telling me to.
Oh wait, she
not
said
to
keep
say
that.
it tonight.
I don't know. Like, I need some clarification on that. Like, keep that one. I don't know.
I took it as she was encouraging me to do right and hold my tongue. So I appreciate that. And you know, Elizabeth, Bruce, Katrina, Simone, everybody else that was on, we appreciate y'all for making the conversation lively. And we look forward to y'all joining us next week. Bring a friend with y'all next week. We're gonna have some live stuff. I'm sure of it. We never have a shortage of things to talk about. And Ralph, you want to tell them why?
This is America.
I have a dream.
These are animals.
America preaches integration and practices segregation.
Why did you say Mexico?
A rising tide of discontent.
The South will rise again. I have a dream.
We have contrasting visions about what America is.
This is America.